Welcome to ISE's FX Options Weekly Outlook, a weekly outlook on the US dollar versus the major currencies, hosted by Jason Ayres, a top industry instructor and founder of OptionSource.net. Learn to trade your views on the strength or weakness of the US dollar.
Welcome to the FX Options Weekly Outlook for August 3rd to the 9th. I'm your host, Jason Ayres, founder and president of OptionSource.net. As always, we're going to take a look at our weekly U.S. dollar index. This is a great way to gain some perspective as to how the U.S. dollar is trading against a basket of currencies. As you can see here, the U.S. dollar has been gaining some strength as it played off of that 72 focal area that we identified a couple of weeks ago. At this point, it is likely that the U.S. dollar is going to make its way to test that 74 focal area that we've identified here. This area is going to become a significant resistance level. In saying that, if we look at our RSI, we can see that we're definitely gaining some momentum to the upside as well, which is playing along with the current uptrend indicated in our MACD. Should we see a pullback and a break below that 72 level, we're likely to retest a support back in here at the 71. Well, let's keep that in mind as we look at our first FX options currency pair here. The CDD, the US versus the Canadian dollar, saw a nice little rally from the 100.5 focal area into the 102, which we suggested would likely represent an area of resistance. You can see that the price actually consolidated in here, and we suggested that any push forward would meet with the resistance at the 103 level, as that is a very significant resistance on the bigger picture. With that in mind, before any sort of a continuation takes place, there's a high probability that we'll see a little bit of a retracement, a natural retracement back into the 101.5. Our MACD is still suggesting a strong trend to the upside on the U.S. dollar's behalf, and the RSI is still suggesting that we do have some momentum. In keeping that in mind, we'd look at a break above that 103 level as targeting a resistance up in here at the 104.5. Let's take a quick look at our YUK, our U.S. versus the Japanese yen. The U.S. dollar has been gaining some strength against the yen as it played into this 107.5 level. We did suggest that that'd be an area of interest as prices started to consolidate there. We felt that any break above that was going to meet with some immediate resistance in at the 108.5, which it actually did. We're now pulling off of that and have found a little bit of a support in at the 107.5 again. In saying that, a natural retracement would find us back into that 106.5 level that we identified last week. So before any sort of continuation to the upside takes place, there's a high probability that we're going to see a bit of a pullback at first. Now, if we look at our RSI, we can see that that's starting to slow down with respect to its momentum to the upside, which is somewhat contrasting that continued upside trend that we see represented here by our MACD. If we do see a break above that 108.5 level, then we'd be looking at targeting the 109.5 as our next area of interest from a resistance perspective. When we last looked at the EUI, the US versus the Euro, we saw it playing around at the 64 level and suggested that a break above that was likely to play into another resistance area identified at the 64.5. We've actually since seen a little bit of a pull-off of that level and a retest of that 64 illustrated in here in our blue highlighted area. Our MACD suggests that we are in a nice little bullish trend to the upside, which has been the story with all of our currency pairs to this point. Our RSI is also suggesting a continued momentum to the upside. Now, in saying that, a break above that 64.5 is likely to play up into that 65 level there, which represents our next significant resistance area. Okay, finally, let's have a look at the BPX, the US versus the British pound. Last week, we suggested that a play into our 50.5 focal area here off of that 50 support that we'd identified would likely meet with some rejection. We did see it play back down in and retest that 50 focal area there, and has since actually bounced off and is now consolidating around that 50.5 level again. Our MACD is suggesting a strong trend to the upside. Our RSI is suggesting that we're starting to build some momentum. We have broken above that 50 level there, or 50.5 level there, so the idea is that we'll likely see a test of that 51, and we'll wait to see whether or not there's any continuation to the upside from there. So folks, this has been your FX Options Weekly Outlook. I'm your host, Jason Ayres, founder and president of OptionsSource.net. Thank you very much for joining me this week, and we'll see you here next week.
Thank you for participating in this week's session. Please join us again next week. For more information about Jason Ayres and to sign up for free FX Options trade alerts, just visit www.optionsource.net. To learn more about ISE FX Options, including our weekly webinar series, visit us at www.ise.com/fx. ISE FX Options can easily be traded through all options-enabled brokerage accounts. These exchange-listed securities are cash-settled in U.S. dollars and have a European-style exercise.